Hi Internet, this is David Roberts, climate and energy writer for Grist.org, everyone's favorite nonprofit environmental news site. I just got back from a year-long sabbatical from my job, during which I didn't work and mostly wasn't on the internet. I wrote a piece in Outside Magazine. Pick it up on your newsstands. I think they still have newsstands. I've written a couple of follow-ups to the piece on the blog. I've also had all these other questions coming from people about bits and pieces of the experience that I thought I would just make a video and answer them all at once so that I can get back to writing about climate doom and gloom, which is my day job. Kat Lazarov asks, "We are delighted that you're back, but why not stay away from the stress forever?" That's an interesting idea, Kat, and it sounds delightful, but I ran out of money. John Stahl asks, "How did you swing it financially, and how did Grist help, or not? Relatedly, what could or should nonprofits and others do to support this kind of renewal?" As to how I swung it financially, the short answer to that is my wife makes a lot more money than I do. We probably could not have lived a year without her salary, but a year without mine. We took the kids out of after-school care. We ate at home more often. We didn't buy as much stuff. We dipped into our savings a little bit, and we are puttering in to the end of the year on fumes, so I just barely managed it financially. As to how Grist helped, it was an unpaid sabbatical, but obviously it was an enormous help to me to know that my job was still here, that my job was secure, and that I could resume. But as to the question of why nonprofits and for-profits both don't offer these kind of things more, I think that's a really good question. While I was on my break and while I was researching my outside piece, I did a lot of reading around in these productivity literature, and it turns out that the social science that's been done, the experiments that have been done, all point in the same direction, which is happy, healthy, well-rested workers produce more. So anytime you have these big experiments where they go to a big company and the big company would implement some sort of new policy, it doesn't matter what it is, and some just take forced regular breaks, force people to take their vacation, or no email weekends. And in all cases, when people come back to work after these rest breaks, they feel better and they're more productive. All should offer more vacation than they do. They should all have policies regarding off hours, email accessibility, and limiting that somewhat. I mean, I think all that is to the good, both in terms of the health of employees and to the health of the business. Naomi Devine asks, "Did you ever seriously consider changing your career path?" I think people had this vision that I would sort of be gripped by some sort of new vocation. Life would carry me on a new path. But the fact is, I don't think I'm cut out to do anything else. I like to try to understand the world, and I like to try to explain it to other people. The job I have now, I have as much freedom as I would ever get anywhere to let my mind wander over things and to explain them to other people. I can't imagine a better job more suited to me. The only possible career change I ever really contemplated was early retirement, just remaining a house husband, which had its attractions, but as mentioned before, proved financially non-viable. So here I am back working again. Jill McIntyre-Witt asks, "What was the most cherished time that you discovered with your family that you will be sure to keep intact when you are back to work?" I can answer that exactly too. I can tell you the exact hours. We took our kids out of after-school care. Any family where both parents work knows what I mean when I say that most of the time we get to spend with our kids is this kind of goal-directed, rushed. You get off work and you pick them up at 5:30 or 6, and you get home and you're making dinner and you're eating dinner and you're doing homework and you're brushing teeth and you're getting them to bed, and then you get them up in the morning and you get them out to school, and it's always that. So what we did is we took our kids out of after-school care so they'd get home about like 3:30. So I would just be home and the kids would get home and we'd just lay around reading or throw a ball in the backyard or go ride bikes. It's just this sort of unstructured, meandering time with children that parents hardly ever seem to get anymore. And I found that incredibly precious. It was probably my favorite thing about my break. And I've sort of structured my schedule now coming back where I'm still going to try to preserve those hours because it really has been meaningful in our relationship. And finally, Soren Larson asks, Are you going to do it again? That's a great question. I doubt I'll ever again have a year to just screw off unless I retire, unless I somehow inherit money from an as yet unknown rich and elderly relative. It's unlikely I'll ever have a year to myself again, but vacations when you're a working family tend to be like military campaigns. There's so much planning and there's so little time, and you're trying to squeeze in so much because you really want it to be significant and matter, that you end up at the end of your like whatever 4 or 5 day vacation totally exhausted, thinking, God, I could use a vacation from my vacation. And I think that's sort of a dysfunction of having work time and non-work time so segmented that when you're not working you feel like, oh, we need a special super fun time here. And nothing can really generally live up to that. So I think it's important really to work regular breaks in. I think it would be great if everybody took 1 week off every, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. I mean, obviously employers would have to be persuaded that this is sane, but regularly having these resets, regularly having these breaks where you take a step back and reassess things. I just think it's so important. And when you get so absorbed and caught up in these little bubbles that journalists are in, and you stay there for years and years, you start to lose your health, your mental health, and your perspective. So I probably won't do a year again, but I very much want to do regular breaks from now on, and we'll see how that goes. All right. Thanks, Internet, and hopefully next time I see you, I'll be talking about the stuff I'm paid to talk about.
Boom.